You guys know I cut my own hair. Maybe I should have this morning. Look at Spiffy. That's right, it's my show. My name's Gordon Ison, and I do a show almost every day while homeless in Los Angeles. That's right. I'm developing one of the very last punk rock television shows, right? And this show is punk rock because that's the music that's starting off in the show. It starts in 1987, and so the story is basically my story, my band. If I would have stuck it out. What a lot of people don't understand is people have different interests, and there's a lot of people who get work as actors, they play in bands, they write books, and I always knew this was possible, and I've done the same thing, except for one major thing is I'm canceled, apparently. Oh well, if I'm canceled, I'm canceled. I still have a show. I developed this show. I'm very proud of this show, and I was actually going to write a different book, and because I was writing fiction, I went with a fictional story. And what I decided to do was basically, well, I was listening to a lot of lectures about Nietzsche and how much he loved Wagner. Of course, they have a falling out. Oh, it's got to be a trauma. But the reason he liked it was because it encompassed everything. And so I was thinking about the same thing, you know, like I really liked, obviously everybody likes The Wire and The Sopranos, but David Chase, who's associated with The Sopranos, he ended up doing a film called Not Fade Away. That was his, I think it was his first film after The Sopranos. And I thought it was very bold. I thought it was very fresh, and he's talking about the music he loves. And I know for a fact, I'm Heinz 57 years old, that there is an audience for this music. And again, I have about 30 songs, and even if we only use about 10 of them, that's fine. Right? Good afternoon. Even if we only use 10 of my songs, that's fine. That seems like a hell of a lot more than Daisy and the Six we're using. And I have to use other shows as a template. What is the ultimate thing to have? What could make the most money? What could have the biggest return? Well, the biggest return would be a series where you have merch, you have music that people could buy, okay? And what's important is the merch, the t-shirts. You have the t-shirts of the band, you have the band itself. So let's talk about what happens when, I'm going to talk about Scorpius XL today. Well, let's talk about what happens when Lenny, whose name's Lionel, and people tease him about Lionel Richie's Dancing on a Ceiling because that came out around the same time. He might go into an insane asylum like Sid Barrett, or he might die. We don't know. And I like leaving it up to this kind of you know, I don't know if you guys could hear or not. I'm going to try to. It's really tough, and I had the maroon pilled episode, and you got to really suffer through that thing. I do apologize for that. But because it picks up all kinds of background stuff. Like I said, I'm homeless. If I had a studio, I could be doing a produced show. I don't talk about anything that is against the rules on YouTube. I try to stick with the rules on YouTube. Yes, that's right. Happy 4th of July to everybody out there. Thanks for reminding me. I got one person in the chat. I really appreciate it. You got to take my show and you got to put it on your social media and you say, hey man, check out one of this guy's episodes. I talk about a lot of things on this show, and what I'm talking about now is my project. And my project has two parallel narratives, in case you don't know. I think most of you do, but it's about Lionel in the 1980s, and it's about a filmmaker from the 1940s to the 1960s. And one of the biggest bands in the scene in the 80s, they got their name from Scorpius XL, what we're going to talk about today. And that inspires Lionel to kind of do the same, because when I was in a band, I was copying other guys in other bands, okay? Because we looked up to each other. I know I did, because I was a kid and I thought everything was cool in the '04 era when I went back to Detroit. Apparently not. That's when they started running game on me. And these are just complete idiots, and they pretend to be your friend. And it's just really sad. I don't understand why people behave like this. I don't understand what running game is. What I do understand is that time is more valuable than money. You can see I eat off the EBT menu. I had half a box of cookies this morning. That's what I eat. Unfortunately, I'd like to eat healthy, but it's cost too much. Okay? I do a lot of things on this show, and basically what I'm showing you is how sad and pathetic I am. Shut up! It's not true. Hey, buddy, can you spare a cup of coffee? So, what happens is, in 1996, Lenny, he's in the biggest band in the world, he crumbles. Something happens. He's 27 years old. He's been doing it for 10 years. Now, it could end up like the film with Toni Collette and Johnny Depp. It could end up like Sid Barrett, where he goes into a mental institution. Hey, it's based on my life. I went to mental institutions too. They weren't called mental, they were called behavioral health. I had a lot of behavioral issues, just basically from alcoholism and a very checkered childhood. And there is no blame. And the reason people like me are able to talk about this is because I've transcended it, so it's easy to talk about. Look how I'm talking about my project, Scorpius XL, which is the 5th film that Walter makes, and it comes out in 1963. That comes out 6 years before 2001, and 2001 is supposed to be referenced in this property. I didn't shave. I used to shave in the morning, every morning. I like shaving in the morning. I like taking a shower, but I actually live out on the street. That's what I do. And it's pretty rough, and it ain't nothing nice. I'm here to tell you. But this is what I'm willing to do for my project. I'm trying to get interest in my project. I don't care about canceling because, like I said, time is worth more than money. So if you're going to spend all this time in canceling somebody and running ops on them and running game on them, you're taking time out of your own life to do that. So I hope like hell it's worth it. I hope it's worth targeting somebody. I talk about a lot of things on this show, and some things I talk about that are part of what's happening in the news, and some things I talk about are philosophical and existential, okay? Because the fact is, you can have as much faith as you want, but if we could get a camera shot of everybody in the same church or the same temple or the same mosque, when the man on the pulpit is actually speaking, you're going to get a different image from each person. So we all have a different take on what this world is. And that's why I was at the age, even when I was in my 40s and I came back to Detroit, I couldn't understand why people hated me. I didn't understand it. I didn't do anything to these people. And this went on for 20 years, guys. You have to understand that. 20 years of this shit. And as it turned out, my wife was using a neurological weapon on me. And this weapon is issued to police officers. And I don't think she actually was supposed to have it. I think she probably got it from her brother. And what people don't understand is this weapon creates criminals. Well, of course, it can get you to kind of stop in your tracks, and it melts you. And it makes you paranoid because your fight or flight is kicking in. And one time I was at the old Miami with some friends of mine, and they were using it right there. And I remember everything that happened. This is what the dangerous part about running around calling someone like me Zoolander. You got another thing coming, pal. You can't hold a candle to one thing that I've ever done. I actually got to talk to Jim Jarmusch. It was like really cool. I'm just a kid from 6 Mile and Gratiot. His films were amazing. They had an amazing effect on me and my mind. And I got to talk to him. Don't you think I wanted to brag about that? And I never did. I was humble, nice, and kind. And I kept my mouth shut. There you go. That's for you. Bunch of tough guys, yeah. Bunch of fake tough guys who run with police officers in Detroit. Bunch of phonies. And they use tech. That's what they do. I'm the only person talking about it. Okay? We are not animals. No one should have this tech. And what this tech does is creates criminals and it creates Karens. That's what I call them, the Karen creators. I'm the only one talking about this on my show, so please put it on your social media and please share it. I am canceled. And part of me being canceled was people using this tech on me. And it was various people at various times. It's horrific and it's horrendous. And it's just like a Clockwork Orange. Nobody needs to have this tech. But through these accelerationists, it looks like that's our future. Now, if you want to eat bugs, go to the doctor and have in utero surgery done on you by AI. It's not my business. You go and do that. I'm not here to rah, 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 sis, boom, ba about any of that. Because I'm at the end of my life. And I understood things that most people didn't understand. And I was nice, humble, and kind to these people. And they showed me, they gaslit me, they used tech on me, and they thought it was hilarious. They just think like going to the jailhouse is like some big funny thing. I went to the jailhouse numerous times. Who gives a crap? Who cares? And again, they project this nonsense onto you, especially out here on the streets. I've been in fist fights. I got into all kinds of malfeasance out here. Oh well, I keep rolling. You can see me. So what I'm trying to do is I'm writing the novelization to a television show. This television show will go for 3 seasons before it transitions to rap. And that's the part that I'm talking about today, in addition to Scorpius XL. It's one of the best narratives of the film. This series has 7 films, and each film has a full narrative. And it's going to be a full 90-minute film. And each full 90-minute film you can purchase separately. And any of the merch. You can buy hoodies and t-shirts for the films. You can buy them for the band. And when Lionel possibly goes missing, nobody knows what happened to him. It's his 27th birthday. Did he join the 27 Club? We go right into Melvin Van Peebles, Gordon Parks, and this conscious rap. Okay, so you're going to have narratives for this conscious rap. You're going to have narratives for these films, and then you're going to have a group of kids who are plucking sound bites from these films. Okay, I hope you can follow me on this. So Walter in Linoleum Blown Apart is making films from the 1940s to the 1960s. By the time the 1980s comes around, the kids in the scene are plucking. They got their name from it's just like Stanley Kubrick. They got their name from his films. They're inspired by his films. They identify with his films, even though his films took place years before. Okay? What do you want? Hey, take it easy, Crow. It's not gonna go smelling up there. Yeah. Right? Right? And so this mystery is that Lionel goes missing in 1996. Well, what's happening in 1996? What I remember happening was bands like I gotta bring this one up. PM Dawn. Right? I'm just giving you an idea. I'm talking about the Roots. I'm talking about the Fugees. You can see how big these bands are. And you can see these guys being able to do the music for these new exploitation films from a director in the 1970s. Why? Because Walter turns in his last film in 1969. His last film's called Bonaparte Bonamine. That's just where Linoleum Blown Apart get their name. Who takes over? They're going to take one of the songs from Linoleum Blown Apart. It's going to be these kids who are into rap. And they're going to start getting into this film director that they like. But that's only for the next couple seasons, unless that blows up and becomes even bigger. You don't know. I plan on maybe 5 seasons. I think maybe Sopranos was the longest running show, I don't know, Mad Men. Mad Men came out of the Sopranos writers' room, okay? This is what I'm talking about. So you have these films coming out, these exploitation films, you create the narratives for them, and you create the music, and that music is going to be sampled, pulled, sampled, and rapped over. This is a game changer, and you're going to be watching this on your device, okay? So, that's all there is to it. Yeah, thanks, Tony. I appreciate that. Yeah, these guys, he just made reference to, you guys, nobody's watching my show, but he made reference to these guys running game on me, and I don't appreciate it. I didn't get any support in the Detroit scene at all. And when I left, all I got was lampooned and shit-talked by a bunch of guys who are afraid to go fisticuffs in the street. They always send a guy who's about 20 or 30 years younger than me to fight me, and I fight him every time, and yeah, I lose. What do you want? Maybe I should take some lessons. But these guys are pathetic, and I want to name these people by name, and I have in the past, so you can look up the old episodes. These guys are pathetic. They can't write a song and they don't have any talent, and they can't nurture talent because they have to be told what to do. They have to be told what's good and what to like. So, anyways, I can pick up a guitar and I can write a song right now, right today. But I lost my guitar to the pawn shop, and I don't really give a shit. So, what I'm talking about is my project. It's called Linoleum Blown Apart. Okay? And it's the story of a kid who's inspired by a filmmaker. Why? Because he's copying the biggest band in the scene. Now, I have the drama behind this, all of that. And like I said before, if they create the dialogue through ChatGPT, right, they can do that. I came up with a lot of scenes. I write scenes. You know, I do all that. And I put up two new stories right on Kindle in the last 6 months that I've been homeless. And I wrote those while I was homeless, and I wrote them in the library. Who could say that? I don't care if I'm canceled. I don't care about cancel culture, because all these people are accelerationists, and they don't even understand what the end result is going to be. They're so dumb. Why? Because they're living orthogonally. They're living in the moment. And what people don't understand is that they're getting electronically triggered through their device. Okay? So if you're going to get triggered by a news story, it's even more. It's like to the 10th degree, right? And the people who are involved in this and know about it, these tech companies, are just sitting back and laughing, right? Meanwhile, there's violence in the streets, and part of it comes from your device, and nobody else is talking about it. I'm the only one talking about it, okay? They've already spent 10 years, or probably more, getting you hooked on social media. Guess what? You are going to have to pay to be on social media now. Did you know that? Oh, yeah. You have to pay to be on Twitter. Okay? Pretty soon you're going to have to pay to be on Instagram and pay to be on Facebook. I am only on YouTube, and I'm hoping that I can grow this show before I die in the streets. Okay? I hope I can grow the show to 1,000 subscribers. And then, you know, I don't know. You know, I gotta get back to work. I gotta start working again. I don't have any bank account. I got nothing. I got nothing. So these phonies who basically created Candace Owens, they're so dumb. People like the people that I know, these idiots who name called me and ran like the cowards they are. And this is people from Harmony House Records and people from the punk scene, because we were all hanging out together. They created Candace Owens, and these people are supposed to be the biggest quote-unquote liberals you ever want to be. Well, you accelerated her into popular consciousness, right? And again, people are busy talking about things that I don't even believe that they have any understanding of. I'm online and I'm filling out job applications. Everything ask me? They ask me about race every single time. Well, why? You're not using what do you call it? Right? You're not putting one race before another race. This is fallacious. This is wordplay. This is spellcraft. Right? Can't think of what you call it, but whatever. You got no business putting that on job applications. It's the first thing on there. It's the first thing on there. That is actually discrimination. Asking people what their quote-unquote race is without being able to even define it. And that's why they do it. Because it leaves you scrambling. I remember they didn't even have Native American on the job applications. I think they started calling people Latino. Okay? Is a Puerto Rican Latino when they're part Southern African? Like, it doesn't even make any sense. Nobody's questioning anything. I question everything on this show. I don't want to be quote-unquote canceled online, but it looks like I am. Oh, well. Now you have to pay to be on Twitter. You have to pay to be part of the public debate. Does anyone think that that's cool at all? Sorry, I'm old. That's what I say. I say if something's cool. Does anyone think that that's okay? I certainly don't. We should be able to go on open platforms, public platforms, not have to pay to be on them, and interact with people until you're blocked. Like that one girl, she keeps blocking me. I got a crush on him, boy, I tell you. What are you gonna do? So, back to our story. Oh man, it's tough, man. It's tough doing this show. Excuse me. It's even tougher living like this. Oh. But again, it's like, what I did was I actually got right back into drugs and alcohol because I hadn't figured out that my own wife was using a neurological weapon on her husband. This is just bizarre to me. I can't understand it. I can't wrap my mind around it. And it creates criminals. And these are the Karen creators. And that's what they do. And they're making viral videos out of actually attacking people. And it makes you afraid for your life. And then they videotape you while they're doing it. And then they put it online. That's what they do. And I'm the only person talking about this. I think all these people come on and they have these completely superficial shows. They're about as dumb as a box of rocks and a bag of hammers that broke them. And the only people who are actually making a little bit of traction is the people on the right who are being able to actually have a voice now on social media. Don't ever forget, you only have two parties to choose from, and the Electoral College picks the president, so you don't even pick them. I'm not political. I have an actual opinion because I use my discernment, but what I want to do with my life is create this show. I didn't become a small-time actor and a musician, and I didn't spend all these years doing that for me not to help create this show. Okay? And I think it would be the biggest show out there as far as merch is concerned. We have the songs. All you have to do is just look at David Chase. We have the models already set up. The models are David Chase's Not Fade Away. Babylon, which was a total fail. Nobody wants to see a bunch of self-indulgent Hollywood prats. We see that in the Hollywood Babylon stories that come by us. Okay, so we don't want to see it on the screen, and none of that is going into my property. None of that. I mean, when you look at Babylon, all you see is a bunch of rich, spoiled people behaving like rich, spoiled people. And that's not cool. You're not getting that on this. Okay? You're getting actual films made with people. The people behind the making of the films, like a Barton Fink style. Right? And you're getting 20 years later the people who were inspired by these films, and some of them actually take the mick out of them. Some of them actually make fun of them. Okay? And that's the entire part of it. And some of that's going to be supplying the dialogue to these kids. Now, the kid's story, I keep trying to tell you, it's relatively easy. How difficult is this story? You're in a punk band. Take a look at any band. Queens of the Stone Age, Nirvana, Foo Fighters, whoever. Oh, they played in a band. Yeah, they played for 10 years, and then finally they're getting some traction. I'm a Songs for the Deaf man. I like Songs for the Deaf. I like Mark Lanigan. He passed away. A lot of people are passing away. That's why I don't have any respect for very specific people that I know. When we know that this life is short and wondrous. And here I actually died in 1999. And here we have all this Fenty on the streets. I wanted to die back in Detroit. Okay? I wanted to die. There is no doubt. When this tech is used on me, I didn't know what was going on. My brain was scrambled for years, and very specific people were laughing about it. And they could go live a long life, go sell your merch, go do whatever you do. Stay away from me, because if I'm ever around you again, I'm going to put you on the ground or under it. Make no mistake about it. Because I consider my life to be threatened by these people. And they're very specific people, and I name them by name. And I never talked about these people before. I never brought their names up. But here's a dozen people bringing up their name to me. Well, there's a there. We know that. What a bunch of cowards, phonies, sissies, complete and utter abject morons these people are. And I'm talking about people in my life. Right? So, right now we're talking about Linoleum Blown Apart. And this is a novelization for a series that you will see get made. I don't owe anybody anything, nor does anybody owe me anything. Okay? I just want to keep going with my life and continue on. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. There's nothing I can do for it. But when you're a creative person, you have to have drive. You have to have something to focus on. I'm 57 years old. And when I was in high school, I was like, yeah, when I'm in my 50s, I want to actually be an artist. Well, what was I in my 50s? I was an art handler. I was picking up Julian Schnabel paintings. I was like, mounting paintings and doing all this stuff. Well, I started doing that. Yeah, Alice in Chains. Yeah, a lot of grunge. I was doing that in the 1990s at the American Indian Community House. I think people ended up forgetting about that. I was an art handler back then. I was a small-time actor. I did so many things. I can't believe these people running game on me. You're going to wish you never did. So, and again, they're so dumb and they're so filled with their groupthink that they are accelerationists. And they're accelerating us into a future that they haven't even wrapped their minds around. Take a look at Twitter, guys. Okay? You got to pay to be on there. You got to pay to be part of the public sphere now. You got to pay to have an opinion, and you only have so many posts that you can make, like 600 posts. Well, it's kind of interesting. Elon Musk is behind Dogecoin, and if you are a Doge or a Duke, you are sixth in line. All right? It actually, Doge means six, so it's the sixth place, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, what are you going to do? So with my property, you have Walter. This is the story that I really love, because I keep trying to tell you that, you have 10 years of the band, and you just keep cutting to the band, you keep cutting to the songs. My songs actually have a hook in them. They were so good that they were actually stolen from privileged people from the suburbs in Michigan, because that's who runs Michigan. Everybody knows it. And I came up in 48205, so check the median income of that. Anyway, so, right? I like the story behind Walter. Okay, I really love this story. It's very complex. And again, you're going to be cutting to it. You're going to be getting little glimpses of it. And then you're going to go right into his film. And so he just spent 8 years with Jeremy Cloud. And he's hanging out. And, you know, and again, he's being introduced to jazz. I love that scene in The Many Stinks of Newark, where he wants to listen to the second Ray Liotta character, who is a doppelganger. He wants to listen to Birth of the Cool by Miles Davis. I actually gave somebody, I think it was Birth of the Cool, and I gave him another CD. I remember one time for Secret Santa at Propaganda and Satellite Films, where I used to work in New York. Okay. So he just spent 8 years with this guy, and he's in the underground of Los Angeles, and he explores all those themes, prostitution, drug addiction. He sees it all. Jazz musicians, right? So you're getting this great glimpse of Americana, but you don't want to dwell on it. You kind of want to see the result of it. The result of all that are these punk rock kids in the 1970s, right? So he spends this 8 years doing that. One of the films is it's called The Spangled Banner, and it's Dr. Strangelove. I mean, there's other films just like it, but I use that as the reference. And the second film is called Not a Sticky Candy Dish. And when you're talking about somebody's candy dish, right? You're talking about a 17-year-old girl. And boom, this is very controversial. Okay? And I have the narrative for that film as well. It's pretty simple narrative if it's a sex romp. A lot of these sex romps, what was the one? There's a couple that were made by Polanski and directors like that. I think Blake Edwards did some stuff, right? You know, where they're just kind of doing these basic sex romps. It's just a basic narrative. A girl's entire family goes down either on the Hindenburg or a ship, like we just had, the Titanic. And she's scrambling to try to maintain her family wealth. And she discovers that her grandmother is still alive, and she's in a mental institution, and they have to have her removed from the mental institution so she can vote on the board to try to keep the wealth, the familial wealth, in the family, right? Before they lose it to another competing. And then there's a guy who's in Alaska, like Gene Hackman in the film called Eureka by Nicholas Roeg, who's in charge of all they got oil wells in Alaska. You have minerals, or, you know, is it minerals? It's you got mining, I meant to say. You got oil, you got mining, and one other thing, I can't remember what it is. So you have all that in Alaska, right? So, and that's where all their assets are. And it could be a turn of the century thing when Alaska actually, like, you know, it could be from 2 centuries ago. It could be the 19th century when Alaska becomes a state, you know, whenever that was. I think it was in the 19th century. But anyways, so, you know, you've got all that to play with, right? Because it could take place at any time period. And that's what I kind of wanted, the sex romp. Take a look at Marshall McLuhan. He was talking about television in the 1950s and 60s. And what was on the television? It was all Westerns. He's like, why are we watching things about what happened 100 years ago on television? He was kind of upset about it. He wasn't upset. I always like him because he was always kind of grumpy. I'm talking about Marshall McLuhan. And he was questioning, like, why? Okay? Well, in my opinion, they were showing us, they were creating culture. They were creating a narrative for us, right? Much like these guys, these mobsters and these outlaws and this whole stuff like that, right? They were creating an American mythos that we didn't have before, right? You just keep building on it and you build on it. The greatest one, obviously, is 3:10 to Yuma, where he kills one of the guys and he tells one of his men to take his body all the way back to where his father lived. because that's how it was traditionally then. You'd want to be buried with your family. And people would actually commune with the dead. You would go clean off people's graves, and you could talk to the people at the grave. And this would kind of fulfill this schism you might have in your mind. Like the kid that I came up with, I don't even know if he's alive or dead, Robert Rebant. They LARP me so hard on Facebook. All these guys think that kind of stuff is funny. And when I see you, we're going to find out what's funny and what's not funny. And these are very specific people. I'm not kidding. I've had it with people like that. And I've named them in these episodes. I don't care if they're male, female, black, or white. I don't care how they identify. I identify them as trash. And they were some of the oldest people that I knew. And they were using this tech on me. They were using it willy-nilly whenever they felt like it. And I know the people involved in it. And I know what it feels like. And it's horrendous. It's hellish. And that's my real life. Take a look at some of my old episodes, guys. Take a look at it. Okay? So what we're doing is we're developing this show that you're watching. And I'm letting you know about these narratives to what I'm writing, which is called, obviously, Linoleum Blown Apart. So Walter, the filmmaker who inspires all these people, Jeremy Cloud's gone. Boom. He's gone. Okay? And so now they have to start thinking about the future, and they say, you know, the guys from the studio come in, hey, Walter, they always put things in his ear, right? So they're guiding him this entire time. And these guys from this record company show up later on in the Linoleum Blown Apart universe. Don't forget about that. Very similar to like this Saul character showing up on The Sopranos. Okay? So here they go. Hey, you ever think about doing a space epic, right? And that's what they give him. They give him the impetus to do the space epic, right? And the little Easter egg that's in there is the actor who's in his original film, who's in the Rocket Club. Because we can see in the original film of Reasonable Service that Herman is using the rockets. He's poo-pooing the brother Werner, Eva's brother. He's poo-pooing him because he's telling him that, yeah, we're going to use the rockets to go to the moon. But in reality, he's creating weapons. That's what he's doing. He's creating weapons to destroy, you know, Europe and to take over Europe, right? That's what the fascists are. So when Godwin goes up to the North Pole, they actually start experimenting on what they're going to use in Scorpius XL. Scorpius XL is the film that I'm telling you about right now. This film is going to come out in 1963. And this is the film that gives this band, the Heretical Sons, their name. Because just like The Right Stuff, you're going to have, excuse me, you're going to have all these astronauts clamoring to be the first to go. Okay? And now they get them all down to 4. Beep. Now the night before they go, they're all drinking beer. And they get in their cars. Now one has an Aston Martin from 1962 and one has a Ford. You guys got to figure out which one's going to flip. But one of them's going to flip. And they go out there drinking. They're drinking and driving. They're racing each other. Now earlier we see that they're filling up the rocket with fuel. And we watch the accident. We watch, not the accident with the cars, we watch that too. But we find out the cause. And the cause is when a little bit of asphalt comes up and a little bit of oil goes into the divot on the asphalt. Right? A little asphalt breaks and you got a pothole and then a little oil goes in there. Right? From one of the trucks at the last minute. And that's what one of the cars hits. You got to figure out which one. Is it going to be the Aston Martin or is it going to be... I guess if it's an American film, we'd like to see the Aston Martin flip. Not the Ford. Take a look at him. Take a look at the Ford Mustang. Okay? and the Aston Martin from those years. They look identical. It's really great. It would be a great thing to have. I did all the research myself, like I said. Boy, I'm feeling rough. It's tough doing this show. Like I said, I do it while I'm homeless. I don't ask you for any money, but please share the show. So, they're out drinking. There's an accident. Of course. One of the cars flips over, and one of the astronauts dies. Okay? Well, just like any engineering plan, you've got a guy ready to take his place. Well, this guy doesn't know. He doesn't know anything about this accident. He's at home, right? He's an alpha male. He's at home, and he ended up getting a girlfriend. Okay, and the reason they picked these guys, they only picked one guy who has a family, and they told them that they're going to go to the Antares. They're going to go to a Scorpius star system. They're going to go study Antares, and then they're going to come back. And they said it's going to take 20 years, okay? But there's a catch to that too. So, right? So they knock on the kid's door, and he's got a girl in his house. He's not supposed to. He's like Bucky and right, in that Kubrick film, right? Yeah, about the bombs, whatever. Right? Dr. Strangelove. He's like Bucky. He's got a girl. And they got to grab him. A couple MPs come in and they grab him. Well, he's still kind of young. He actually lives with his parents because we've seen this before. You see a guy like, even though Rebel Without a Cause, he is in high school. Of course, he lives with his parents. Well, this guy's only like 24 or 25. He doesn't have his own house yet. Right? He just went through the military. He just came out. They're like looking for astronauts. He's like, yeah, take me. He doesn't have any place to stay. He stays in his bag, in his duffel bag, just like me. Big duffel bag. Lives out of his duffel bag. Just stays at his parents' house. He's like, oh yeah, I was trained to be an astronaut, but they picked somebody else. Well, now he's got a girlfriend. And she has to hide. Nobody knows why she's hiding. You find this out. This gets revealed to you later on. Because there's only one guy who is supposed to have a tie back to Earth. And he has 2 kids and a wife. Okay? And he is Hispanic. I like the Hispanic. I like that they're family-oriented people. Okay? And they appreciate and respect people in their own family. I'm not saying there's all different kinds of families out here. But mostly you see Asians and Mesoamericans with big families, right? Anyway, so I really resent the ladies in my family specifically. I just don't. It's just really, truly sad. One of the things when they were frying my brain in 2018 and people were laughing about it, and it was people that I knew, I drove all the way out to Denver to see my sister, and my sister was like, yeah, we should all get everybody in the family together, get a timeshare. And I have a CDL, and I went back to Michigan with that in my mind, to be with my family. And these people tortured me so bad through the Facebook app that entire thing fell through. And then I had a person named Josh Barnes at Disconnected Records bringing up Denver. You guys are going to squirm like a maggot in the eye of a corpse, and I'm going to see to it until my dying breath, I will. And these are the guys at Disconnected Records back in Michigan. So, there's that. So, again, that's why I love family so much. I never really had it. The earliest remembrance of my father was that he was beating my mother. And I already explained to you that she would have to stay across the street. And then they became resentful of our family. And so that was evidenced through their daughter acting out. And you see this body of lies that could just keep continuing and continuing. And you start building on these lies, you build on these traumas, instead of people sitting down and having a conversation. And what's happening now? People are running game through apps. They're running game on the ground using police officers and people in the government. There are no gangs outside of jail. They fucking spray paint that shit on the wall so police officers can get a raise. And make it seem like they're out there fighting some big crime. I mean, we might as well be living in a Marvel universe. As much bullshit as I've noticed in my lifetime. That's why I am a creative person. I've always been a creative person. That's how I handle trauma. That's how I handle stress. So you have, I like these dog walkers. You know that they can't have 7 dogs. Like, I mean, they could around here. Right? So, Jeremy Cloud is gone. There's no more taking drugs. Right? And Walter's not a drug addict. He's not going to be... Right? But he does make some trippy stuff. And they do end up getting in trouble. But hey, it's a sex romp at the movies. People love it. The guy's never made a bad movie financially. Right? And... so they're like, Walter, you want to make a sci-fi movie? He's like, yeah, I want to make a sci-fi movie. Here's some books. Read these books. Check these books out. And you see him developing a relationship with his wife. And you can see them, and I was heavily influenced by Tarkovsky, obviously. Solaris. All that stuff is available right here on YouTube. I'm glad to be on YouTube. Thank you very much, YouTube. I'm here to tell my story. I'm not telling people not to eat bugs. I'm not telling people not to get in utero AI surgery, because that's what accelerationism is. That's exactly what it is. They're trying to push us into this future. Oh, well, what do you want me to do? I had cookies for breakfast, man. I've been canceled. Oh, well. Right? And a sad part was I lived with the woman who knew all about this. I lived with the woman who was torturing me the entire time through this device. Well, look how I came up. Look what I put up with my mother. She couldn't have a conversation with me. She had to hit me. And look, marijuana's legal now. I'm catching a beating over marijuana. I'm getting arrested at school for marijuana. It's not even called marijuana. That's even a derogatory term. For cannabis? Are you insane? Yes, these people are. Now take a look at what's going on now. Now places are starting to decriminalize drugs finally. There was a guy yesterday, I had to do my laundry. He was out there smoking weed. He didn't offer me any, but there's nothing wrong with it. It's so just disgusting. This whole society, it makes me sick. Really. And, you know, what are you supposed to do? Not work with somebody because, oh my God, you voted for somebody that we didn't vote for? What is it going to come down to? You got to move to a state? You got to live in a certain area? That's called discrimination, pal. That's what people fought against. Take a look at the Titanic sub. Take a look at it. I don't even know what it's called. I'm sorry. Ocean Gate? Back when I was a kid, and they said that if you fell off a cruise ship, right? It's all hands on deck. The Navy, Coast Guard, everyone would be out there looking for you. Look what they did today. They put it in the news media that these people were dying, and what did everybody do? Number one, they started making jokes about it. Number two, nobody ran out there with the speed of lightning to get these people. They just held up their hands and said, oh, well, the thing went down. There's nothing we could do about it. We had to wait until it crashed. Here, do you want to look at it after it crashed and there's dead people inside? Like, what? That's not the country that I was told that we live in. I was told when I-95 goes down, a piece of I-95 breaks off, that it's all hands on deck. We got to get everybody out there to get this thing fixed. That's what this country was all about. It's not about that anymore now, is it? Is that what we're accelerating into? Is that what your accelerationist movement is? A Patricia Highsmith novel where we're all sociopaths? Is that where we're going with this? Oh no, let's just, we can make fun of it. We'll just make fun of it. We'll just make fun. Oh yeah, they're, oh, are you kidding? They're just a bunch of billionaires. They crushed in on themselves. They're crushed. Oh, it's hilarious. And I was watching a meme show, and the guy said, he's like, yeah, you know what? He goes, I was pulling memes for this show, but after a while it got really sick and sad. And this is what I'm trying to tell you through Media Deep Blue. These headlines that you're getting, these unsourced headlines, these are memes. You don't know what's a meme and what's a headline anymore. That's part of the accelerationist. We're accelerating into this and nobody knows where it's going. They're just allowing for it to happen. And it seems to me that any people who want to talk about it are kind of getting a little bit shut down a little bit. That's why I said, hey, I don't really care what a person does. It's not my business. And if I only have a dozen or so years left on my life on this planet, I want to try to do something like the monkeys that I used to watch. I was a Mickey Dolenz man, right? That's the kind of thing that I wanted, right? And so that's what you have. It's like a cross between The Sopranos and, you know, like Bart and Fink and the Monkees, basically. But it's a lot more raw, it's a lot more grittier, and we are going to transcend the genre. We're going to go from my punk rock roots when I was in love with Stanley Kubrick. Always take a look at the Linoleum Blown Apart playlist. You've got to check my playlists, guys. You got to check my playlists. Right? I have a song called Ludovico Technique. And again, I'm dealing with a scene. I'm in a scene and people are changing the names of my songs and like all this like just retarded stuff, man. There was no respect for anyone in the scene. And it's, look at what we have now. Look at where Twitter's heading. You can't be part of this public sphere anymore unless you have so many followers. You have to be able to pay. You have to pay to have your voice out in the public sphere. It's a game changer. So, tomorrow's episode, we're gonna talk more about Scorpius XL. I'm gonna get into the minutia of the show, but I always kind of do this. I always kind of like get into other things when I have a day off. I have to tell you about my life, and it is nothing nice. It's nothing pleasant, and it's no great pleasure to be in this situation, but I'll stay in this situation as long as it takes for us to get this made. Thank you very much for watching my show. I appreciate it more than you'll ever know.